Hello, everyone. Today we have Liam again with us, and we are planning to discuss idealism. So it will be a philosophical discussion, and to make it more exciting, we decided to pick the modern idealist, a representative of this movement, and we'll watch an interview with him where he's expressing his views, and then we will gonna comment on it. So, I mean, you could start sharing the screen, Liam, because he will be in charge. I'll just say something about this person who will be talking about. His name is Bernardo Kastrup, right? And the way he got into this topic, as he explained in this interview with Karjamangal, is that he was interested in artificial intelligence, and then, well, the question of how to recreate consciousness in it, whether it's even possible, and that eventually made him rethink his whole philosophy, and that's how he claims he arrived at idealism. So I'm just trying to point it out because what's important for us here is that he's overall pro-reason, right? So he's interested in using reason to question everything. So we expect
Well,
this,
he
this
claims to be pro-reason.
yeah, to be honest.
He
So
thinks of himself as pro-reason.
right, so we hope it could be interesting. Um, so yeah, so that's kind of why we chose him. Mhm.
Maybe it's worth noting, like, neither of us are very familiar with this guy. Like, I had never heard of him before Andre sent me the video, for example.
Yeah, it's fair. In my opinion, he feels like it's more like he made similar paths to Hegel after he got exposed to Kantian ideas, and in a sense, he became actual idealist, but in a different way. So he still remain like, as he says, pro science and pro reason, at least how he claims it. So yeah, we could see how this position is developed. So that's all. We could start.
Okay, we'll see.
The assumptions and views that I inherited from my culture.
So, what are your conclusions? Why don't you state the metaphysical assumptions of materialism and how they compare and contrast with yours?
Okay, for a materialist, there is experience, but it's created inside our brains in a way that nobody can describe explicitly and coherently. And there is a world outside experience, which is pure abstraction. It's a world that has no colors, has no scents, has no flavors, because colors, scents, and flavors are experiences created in our brain inside our skull. That's the assumption of materialism. And so the real world of materialism is a world of abstraction describable through quantities. A list of quantities such as mass, charge, momentum, position, amplitude, frequency, weight, and so on and so forth. And if you provide this complete list of numbers, then you've said everything there is to say about matter, about the world outside, which of course leaves out all qualities. But qualities, according to materialism, are somehow epiphenomenal. They are created by matter inside the brain within our skulls. So the world of our experience for materialism exists entirely within our heads. If you look up to the sky at night and you see a bright star, that star, insofar as it's constituted by color, is actually inside your skull. The inner surface of your skull is beyond the stars as you experience them under materialism.
Well, I'll continue.
Because the experience of the star is supposed to be conjured up inside your head by your brain. There is a real star beyond your skull, but that's not the star you see. It's the thing that somehow modulates the star you see. So that's the mind twist that you have to do if you are to be consistent with materialism in your thinking. All the images you experience are inside your actual skull. The inner surface of your actual skull is beyond the room you see right now. There is a room beyond your skull, but that's not your experience of it. It's an abstract room describable purely by quantities. It's something you can't even visualize, because if you visualize, you already put qualities in the mix. So that's materialism, and its main problem is that nobody can provide a satisfying account of how quantities can possibly produce qualities. There seems to be a fundamental epistemic chasm between the two. There is nothing about quantities that would allow us to deduce, at least in principle, the qualities of experience. There is nothing about mass charge momentum that would allow us to deduce what it is like to see red, what it is like to fall in love, or to have a bellyache.
So, okay, this is extremely dense, and it's very difficult to address everything he's saying, and I certainly don't agree with all of it. This very last thing he said, I think I agree with. And Andre, you and I were talking about it a bit before we started recording, that it doesn't seem like you could explain all the facts of experience in terms of, standard physical quantities like charge and momentum and stuff. Like, how are you going to explain to someone who's blind what it's like to see the color red?
Well, yeah, I agree that it's a bit unclear question. Yeah, so I think about in terms of information conveyed, and whether we could replace color vision with another, I don't know, form of conveying the same information. And if yes, does this mean that well, color vision doesn't actually add anything to the picture of the universe? Yeah, I don't know. Uh, but I certainly, it's not really controversial for me to think that, well, our perception of color red is a result of some interaction between the photons of certain wavelengths coming into our eyes and some neurons inside our brain. Uh, mm, so that's maybe what he is trying to present as kind of weakness. In a sense, he said that impossible to explain how this actually works.
Well, okay, but so pushing back on that a little bit, what, so I mean, maybe you could say, oh, the color red is a result of seeing wavelength in a certain range and then certain neurons fire, whatever. But you couldn't, even if you understood that process completely, you wouldn't understand what it's like to see the color red. So like there's something that exists, consciousness of red, that is not the same as neurons and photons and electric signals.
Mm, well, yeah, I don't know how to answer that. Yeah, so what it means that it's not the same. Well,
Like that you completely understood the neurons and photons and stuff, you still would not necessarily understand the experience.
yeah, but what we mean to understand, it's like I would have the same knowledge, right, of something. There is like a
Well,
one-to-one
but
correspondence between objects in
you
reality
wouldn't know
and
you wouldn't know what it's like to see red if you're a blind person.
well, I see. So basically, if I'm a blind person and I understood all the physics and I measure all the wavelengths, I'm still lacking something. Yeah, I've thought about it before, and we discussed it earlier. Yeah, today, yeah, I don't know. It's true. I don't know whether it could be counted as like information. Um,
But so I mean, so I think I used to be a materialist. And by the way, I think even though this video, I guess in this video we're arguing against idealism primarily, but um and I should mention I think idealism versus materialism is a false dichotomy. But one of Yeah, one of the arguments that made me less of a materialist was this. Like, I think, like, consciousness is like consciousness actually exists. It's not the same as matter. Maybe it's like I mean, I think it's a property of matter,
Well, yeah, but that the problem
but
is like, what does it mean to exist, for properties to actually exist? In if the attributes of matter, we don't we don't give them the same metaphysical status, right? Like it's isn't similar to problems of universals for me, right? Like Plato thought that universals exist like particulars, right? So, uh, and well, it turned out to be wrong, right? But is something similar is happening here? I don't know. Um,
well, I mean, if all he said was that universals exist, well, okay. I mean, like there's some formulation of that he said. I mean, universals are concepts, and concepts do exist, and they exist within the mind of an individual. But okay, maybe this is a like maybe this is not important.
yeah, I don't know, but I mean, I think that that's the best we could say about it. Like that's example with color is indeed kind of the best we could have. Like whether seeing color as opposed to knowing everything about wavelengths and just seeing, the numbers for each wavelengths give you any additional information. Or whether it's about information at all.
Yeah, I wouldn't go so far as to make it about information. It seems like an assumption.
Yeah, it's true, but it's just like it seems like if the material world allow for consciousness and allow for the subjective experience, then is the question of how exactly subjective experience should look like, why one way and not another, is kind of meaningless. That's in a sense, like you're saying, well, materialism is unable to handle something, but it's actually something which is just by construction it cannot handle it. It's impossible. How could it answer questions about subjective experience if it something about objective reality? Yeah, I don't know. Is it a weakness of materialism?
Well, there's also something. There's also a logical point which I only understood later about um like your consciousness is the means by which you're understanding the physical world. So like there's some sort of well, there's some implications to be drawn from that. Maybe we'll get to that later.
Okay.
Okay, I guess I'll continue. Although I mean, he said things we could talk about even more about what he said, but like I already sort of forgot. Like it was very dense. But let's continue.
Okay, if there's more we could find later in his position, which you want to comment on, then yeah, sure.
There is a correlation between these two things, but that
The two things being consciousness and material conditions, I assume.
Yeah,
Or wait,
yeah, I think so.
listing principle, the qualities of experience. There is
Ah,
nothing about mass charge momentum that would allow us to deduce what it is like to see red, what it is like to
yes.
fall in love, or to have a bellyache. There is a correlation between these two things, but that correlation is not amenable to causation. It's very difficult to coherently specify a chain of causation from quantities to qualities. Now, to me, this means that we have reduced materialism to absurdity. Not that we have a problem to solve, the hard problem of consciousness, how do you come with qualities starting from quantities? It's not a problem to be solved, it just illustrates the contradictions of our assumptions. For me, what we call matter is not the cause of consciousness, it's what certain mental processes look like from a certain perspective. I think the error we've made is twofold. The first error we made was
I kind of want to watch this at like 75% speed.
what mental processes look like from a certain perspective. I think the error we've made is twofold. The first error we made was to conflate images with the thing in itself. We think the world we see is the thing in itself, as opposed to the appearance, the representation, the image of the thing in itself. In other words, it's what the thing in itself looks like when observed from a certain perspective. Matter is appearance. It's what the thing in itself looks like. That's why it sort of vanishes when you study quantum physics down to entanglement.
Okay, I don't know what he's talking about with the quantum physics thing, and I don't want to know. But so maybe this is his fundamental error is that he thinks that what we're conscious of is not the thing in itself, but the thing as processed by us, right? What we're conscious of is really an image of a thing, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know what exactly he means by it, but in my opinion, it's just well, we see external world through our sensors, through eyes and ears, and uh, well, this means our perception is constrained by them, by this physical apparatus. Like the simplest example is like we don't see all wavelengths, right? We only see some of them, but it can be something more
But
than.
that's not what he's saying. He's not saying perception is constrained. We only see some wavelengths or whatever. That's true, but that's not what he's saying. He's saying um you only see the image of the thing that your mind has created. You don't see the thing in itself.
Well, yeah, but I could say the way to think about it is that imagine when photons get into your eye, right? Um, Actually, yeah, it's interesting to we studied how human vision works. Like to some degree, when we see a picture, our eye can only focus at a given moment on some parts of the picture, and this is called attention mechanism. This actually was used in AI, right? The analogy. So it focuses on key parts of the picture, and then it kind of scans through it, and it happens very very quickly until our frontal cortex indeed was able to get some sort of integrated knowledge. So
Sure.
there's something like that is happening.
Something like what?
Like
I claim that this is that what you're saying, which I do think is true, is not what he's saying.
mm, but what's the distinction? Like it seems like it's super crucial
The distinction is that
for a whole
he's
accounting view, but I don't understand.
what you're saying is consciousness works through some means, right? There's consciousness. We have some nature. Our eyes work in a certain way, right?
Yes.
That's effectively what you're saying. Okay. What he's saying is that what we're conscious of is not the thing as it really is, but but the image of the thing. So it's like he's saying, "Oh no, you're not really like yeah, okay, the thing is, yeah, your eyes go through all this rigmarole and they process photons or whatever, and then the result is that you're conscious of whatever it is that you're conscious of, that thing out there." He's
Well,
saying,
okay.
"No, you're not conscious of that thing out there. You're conscious of the image." Effectively, what he's saying is you're only conscious of consciousness.
But I never understood this. Isn't it just some kind of
Yeah.
semantics? Like how like it seems
No,
like there's nothing here. Like that's what I had a feeling.
no, it's very subtle, but I don't think there's nothing here at all.
You could say that if our consciousness is mostly in neurocortex, the neurocortex is connected to frontal cortex, and the neurocortex like analyze it starts in its analysis from the information of the frontal cortex. And you could say, is this what he means by like neocortex is aware of the picture created by the frontal cortex? Is this how I could put it in the more like physicalism terms? like, is it, or you'd say it's for him, it's like more like, I don't know, more mystical in a sense or something. I don't know um, what the message is being conveyed in those words.
Um, but so what you're saying is not what's happening because it's not when I'm referring to, the lamp or the wall or whatever, when I'm pointing some object, I'm not talking about, I'm talking about the actual thing. I'm not talking about the image.
Mm,
I'm
well,
aware of the actual lamp there. I'm not aware of the image, right? That's that's the that's the distinction.
okay, but it's probably I could think about as we're getting into this kind of problem of idealism, which is constantly brought up as well, but different people agree on the same phenomena because it seems like it's kind of obvious that there is a physical world out there, and we just observe actual things there, and that's why of course we all see kind of approximately the same things unless our eyes are slightly broken, like they don't see colors or something, right? And is this kind of the argument? But then yeah, I mean, I think it's a good argument against idealism, and he has to
Wait, I
somehow
don't understand.
cope with
You're
it.
asking a question? I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, what's your like your point? You're trying to say that no, I'm certain that I'm aware of thing out there because uh, it's an agreement with like whatever awareness other people have, or how.
Oh, that would be a terrible, terrible standard.
But then how do you know it? Like,
How could you possibly define something in terms of what other people are aware of? It's absurd that I'm shocked you'd even, I guess not really, but like, that's like, no.
no,
Uh,
but the
Why
thing
would you
is,
define why you define it in terms of other people? No,
it's
what?
not a definition, but it's more like how
It's like,
do
oh yeah, that's how we know that our senses aren't deceiving us because other people agree with it. That's absurd. How do you even know that other people agree with it? For example,
and no, I mean, like
if not through your senses, right?
if say
It's
you are the
ridiculous.
only, if like you are the you are color blind, how do you know that the colors even exist? And first of all, other people tell you about it,
Wait,
right?
wait, okay, okay.
But they say no, you see, if you see colors, I could tell you this is different color from this. Uh, so practically that's how it works. But I don't know how you avoid it fundamentally. You could
No,
say, uh,
no. I mean, you shouldn't. It's not okay. It's not just that other people um see color. It's that there's a whole lot of evidence for it if you're a blind person, that there's something these other people are able to see that I'm not able to see. And it's not like they're making it all up, because, like, they don't run into walls like I do. They don't need a cane like I do, right? And, you know, you, you can explain a lot of, a blind person can be aware of a lot of things that can only be explained uh if he's identified light, right? Like,
Well, yeah, but I'm trying to understand, like, you basically claim that you are aware of some actual thing out there.
yes.
How do you know it? You only have information about it from your senses, right? Uh,
Yes. I mean, from
so,
your percepts specifically, but that's a subtle
okay,
distinction,
yeah,
because
so,
the starting point epistemologically is perception, which is different from, like in there's something about perception that's um at a higher level. As scientists or whatever, we know that it works in these complicated ways, like what you described with, like, the eye darting around, and then it creates some sort of integrated picture, right? But what's given is the integrated picture or whatever. um Rather, the that is an understanding or an awareness of the thing out there.
yeah, how do we know? Like, you just
I shouldn't have said integrated picture. I actually screwed up. But anyway,
you just
yeah.
keep repeating that oh, I am aware that of thing out there, and how do
Yeah.
you know it? Like, what's making you certain? Like, how will you disprove his position if you ever face him in
Well,
real?
okay. Why are you talking about proof? What does proof mean? I mean, yeah, like to even have a standard of proof, like, the reason we need proof is because some things are not immediately obvious, right?
Yeah,
The it,
it's
it, it
ways
and
of
with,
establishing certainty of.
like, the only reason we need proof is because we can't perceive everything. And the only standard, the only way ultimately to tell if one proof, rather, the only way to tell if something's a proof or not ultimately is to use perception and identity.
Mm, well, yeah, I think he would
Right?
say
Like,
that.
you can't say, like, prove to me that your senses are valid or something, because that that's like what it means. Like senses are like the standard of proof. It's what it's all based on.
Yeah, okay,
And
but he would say that that what you actually experience is what your subjective experience, your consciousness. That's your immediate experience. And the in order to arrive at the concept of some sort of materialist real world, you have to make some maybe inductions or maybe in deductions. I don't know. That it's not. This is not obvious for him. That's what he how he builds it. He said that you talking about perception, right? You'd say yeah, perception is primary. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a perception of a real world. It's just this experience, these individual experiences which I have, and this primary. Indeed, it's self-evident. But the existence of some sort of objective world which we perceive, which is a perception of, is not self-evident. So that's kind of
but
how
it is, your perceptions are perceptions of existence. I mean, and that's ultimately, that is the consciousness axiom. That is equivalent to saying consciousness is conscious. Or to
and
be
what it
conscious, you have to be
does.
conscious of something.
Yeah, but the way he, let's say, yeah, he basically is trying to say that, well, consciousness is conscious of existence, so it's like something has to exist. Basically, it's like a tautology. But for him, this he kind of made it.
Okay, yeah. So this
He
was a
kind of made
this
consciousness
doesn't
existence. It's like he would
he
say
doesn't he
yes.
doesn't have the concept of existence, or he's not using it right now, I'll say. He is using the concept of matter. And he's saying that there's a lot of things that I mean, he's saying matter is not fundamental. He said something like matter is what, I guess he says it a little bit later. He says something like matter is what mental processes look like across a dissociative barrier or something like that. But which I don't understand, but he's trying to reduce matter to consciousness, right?
Yes, exactly. I'm just trying to say that, well, this existence for him is of conscious nature. That's kind of the point. Because
But so the thing is existence has to come, like, existence is primary to consciousness because there's primacy of existence because consciousness is like synonymous with awareness, and it's like it doesn't make sense. Like, what is consciousness? It's consciousness of something, of existence, right?
not necessarily.
If
It's because he
yeah,
would say it's like
if
a
it,
rudiment of a
yes,
materialistic view.
necessarily. Wait, what do you mean?
No, he would just say that it's just a unfortunate terminology inspired by the materialist worldview. He would just say you don't have to be aware of
He would
something.
he would say,
It's
what is consciousness conscious of?
yeah. He would just say consciousness is this
It's
experience.
conscious of consciousness.
Yeah, and that's what exists.
Consciousness of what? Of consciousness. Of what? Of consciousness. And you
No,
get
basically
infinite
yes.
rest,
No, no, you don't have
which
to.
is an indication that you screwed up somewhere.
It's just you use the term consciousness in such a way that it has to be consciousness of something. But that's just the artifact of your like materialistic view of it's he could just say that well, the subjective experience is what exists. It's self-evident, and whether it's this subjective experience is a consciousness, awareness of some other physical world or not is something which has to be established and proven. And he said, well, there is no proof, so there is no need for us to.
Look,
Um,
in saying that, he's saying, in effect, he's talking about some like um he's saying he's like pointing to something and he's saying, here, look, here's this thing that I'm conscious of. Right. So
well,
it's not like he's using it. I mean, maybe I'm sure he has like a complicated, twisted thing that he means by consciousness, but implicitly he is using my concept of consciousness in every single sentence that he is uttering.
well, when you're saying we are pointing at something, why is pointing relevant? Is it
Oh, I mean, it's a
for other
metaphor.
people or what? Like he doesn't have
Sorry?
to. Like it's
Well,
just
no,
it
no,
confuses me because when you're
he
saying
has the
pointing,
idea. His sentences are, he thinks, identifying a thing in existence of which he is conscious. Every one of his sentences is doing that, or so he thinks.
mm,
He wouldn't put it in those terms,
but I
but
understand he doesn't.
my point is, no, look, but my
Yeah.
point is, you're you said, oh well, maybe he just disagrees about what consciousness is or whatever, and like, yeah, in a sense, like, yeah, I'm sure he has like a very twisted, confused thing he means when he says consciousness, but he is using my concept of consciousness because my concept of consciousness is axiomatic. He's using it in every sentence. He implicitly understands it in every sentence he's saying. He implicitly understands that the sentence is his identification of something in existence, something that he thinks he's conscious of, right?
Well, okay. So, what's your answer? Basically, you saying your resolution is then what? That because of uh, how what the term consciousness even means, his use of it is actually the same as yours, because it's actually standard, very like standard use which everybody actually agrees upon, because yeah,
yeah,
because it's I mean it's like we seeing like objects, right? And we're like aware of certain objects, and their nature is not known to us by default, but uh, just consciousness is what makes us aware of them, just kind of by its definition.
like like he can't, again, I'm sure he means all these confusing, ill-defined things whenever he talks about consciousness, but he can't get by even a single sentence without, all of his sentences represent him thinking that he's aware of something in existence.
Like what, for example?
Well, like, let's just go back to the last sentence, because I literally claim it's every descriptive sentence is satisfies this property. So let's see.
From a certain self. In other words, it's what the thing in itself looks like when observed from a certain perspective.
So he's saying it's what the thing in itself looks like when observers are, okay, this is confusing because it's a little bit, but he's saying, look, the form of the sentence, he's saying it is X, right?
Yeah, okay, but keep
So
in mind,
he's
he's
saying,
describing
here's
materialistic
this
view right now.
thing, here's this thing, this it, and I'm aware of this it, and its identity is that it's X. That's what he's saying in that sentence. So in that sentence, he is assuming awareness of something, right? And then that is the type of thing that I'm identifying with my concept of consciousness.
So in other words, you could say the mistake is that he's using consciousness in some, he's trying to kind of extend uh, the concept of consciousness beyond its only relevant meaning, right? Its valid meaning. In a sense,
Yeah.
he's trying to, well, kind of drag it onto all of existence. Like the consciousness is some kind of mental process which allows to be aware of certain things in existence, and he's basically well, trying to kind of claim all existence to be consciousness. Um,
Right. Which then begs rather that wouldn't make sense on my view of consciousness, which I think is the proper view of consciousness, where consciousness is an axiom. It wouldn't make sense because that that form of consciousness, which I'll just call consciousness, it's consciousness of something. So it you can't just say, oh, what's it consciousness of? It's consciousness of consciousness. Like, okay, consciousness of what?
well, okay, no,
Oh,
we could
you
say
can be conscious of consciousness. Like, for example, like if you have like a memory or something, right? Or like you feel a certain way and then you realize that you feel that way. That's consciousness of consciousness. That's fine, but there needs to be an object, right?
so. In a sense, like if we try to extend the notion of consciousness to include everything which exists, we will need like a separate notion of consciousness kind of within it to be aware of it, or something like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Indeed, is it fair? Uh, mm, that this is the refutation. Because for me, how I think about this is that if we try to extend this idea further, indeed, because it seems like for me, if you are very, very careful and consistent with it, if you just try to redefine everything to be consciousness, you will still have to, if you want to, adhere to reason, you would have to introduce all the same notions which you would have in a standard, more like materialistic kind of view, or I don't know how you call it. And that's what he
Right,
kind of does. Like he says,
right.
okay, there is still other people. We just call that they exist like as consciousness out there. We just kind
I
of call
wouldn't
it.
call it don't call it the standard materialist view, but a more rational view will, or a non-idealist view will call
Yeah,
them.
non-idealist. We're just like where objective, like where just physical world exists, and we just kind of aware of it and so on.
Yeah.
So yeah, what happens in his philosophy, if we listen further, he has to define some sort of
The
subjective part of.
dissociative boundary or
Yeah,
something.
so exactly. So he still introduces the same boundary, and he still says that this is subjective consciousness and this is a kind of objective consciousness, and he still has to define what truth is in a way similar to correspondence theory, except for now it's correspondence not between your consciousness and physical world, but the subjective consciousness and this objective consciousness and something like this. And then he said still could do science and so on. And it kind of, if you just stay consistent, because what you've done is just some kind of virtual definition, it doesn't really changes anything. So that's how I view idealism. So it's something like this for me, because
Oh, but okay, but so what? I don't think that redefinitions are innocent. Like like it's not like you can just, oh yeah, have um we'll call this consciousness, but oh really he means the same thing as I mean or something. Like I don't think that's um how it works.
well,
And I
what
and I
I noticed that
what's the point of making everything consciousness? Like ultimately it's going to cash out in some sort of like crap, like, oh well, since the true nature of reality isn't really knowable to us, there's room for God, and then, or something like that. Like I guess he's an atheist, but
yeah,
um
exactly. I mean, that's exactly what I think, and that's why I checked about it. I checked it about him before this discussion. So
yeah,
that's my suspicion always about idealism. That
yeah,
no, if you actually stay consistent with idealism, and then it will be nothing more than a redefinition, which is like benign by construction. But that's not what they do. Indeed, at some point they actually use this confusion which they introduced through this non-standard definition to allow for some logical mistake. And yes, that's how it usually works. That's like,
okay.
in my opinion, like where formally the problem starts. It doesn't even start for me here. It kind of starts when they say things. Specifically, I checked. Yeah, it's a question of like the stand. One of the standard ways where it pops up is in morality, when he says something like, "Oh, is if we all just the reflection or different." How he called it, multiple personality disorder, alter egos of the same mind, then we're all kind of, we're all together, and it's kind of, gives us a collectivistic spirit in a
Oh,
sense.
okay. So that's where he goes. By the way,
So
I mean that's
yeah,
sort
yeah,
of
and actually, I
seems sort of
specifically.
like
Uh,
Hegel was also an atheist, but it led
mm,
him to a similar place, I think.
Yeah, let me just read from AI. Like, all individual minds are alters of one universal consciousness. Internalizing this tends to increase empathy and reduce the sense of isolation, egoism, or alienation.
Yeah, okay.
Kastrup
Well,
has
there you
wrote
go.
that
There you
democracy
go.
grows very
No, but
quickly is
uh,
when the is not just breathing but lives through. So yeah, so he thinks that oh, it makes this collectivism, yeah, the worms of collectivism more natural, right? But strictly
but
speaking,
Andre,
like no, like it doesn't form from idealism. It's like it because he thinks that oh, there
I
is
disagree. So here's the sense in which I disagree with you. Um, I don't think you it's not valid to form concepts in any way you please. Like it's it's not just that oh they formed this concept in this way, but then technically they didn't make a okay, you see what you mean. You said your idea is, oh, they formed concepts a certain way, but they didn't make a logical error until some later step where they were vague about something and then it helped them to justify collectivism or something. But
yes.
the
Mhm.
problem is that what you mean by logical is you mean deduction.
Right, right.
But that's not a good that shouldn't be what you mean by logical. You should mean it something that self-consciously obeys the principles of reason, which are more than just deduction, and it includes the principles of concept formation. And I think that if you have a concept of consciousness that groups together like you know
Consciousness
um,
and existence,
a
basically.
bottle and like awareness or something, that's not a
Yes.
valid concept. Um, and so I think that actually is where you made the error.
Well, okay, I understand what you're saying it, but the reason why I'm talking about errors as deductive logic errors is because that's something which everybody can agree on, usually upon on. Like it's
Okay, yeah, deduction is not my concept formation thing would be controversial in a way that deduction would not be.
so exactly that's what I'm saying. Like
Fine.
whenever we have an internet debate, we want to point out the logical deduction error, and then it
Yeah.
this result in full refutation. Like
Okay, that's a good
but
yeah.
otherwise the people just say this is your point of view about inductive reasoning and formation of concepts and so on. So that's kind of the problem. But I agree
Okay, no,
overall that
that's actually a good point. That's a good
it's
point.
fair to say
If your
that
goal is to win debates, then it's good to find to focus on deduction because that's what's not controversial. And then indeed, like if you're not doing something reality based, there is probably going to be an issue with your deduction somewhere. Like with Leibniz's deduction of, monads or whatever, like it's not just that it's wrong, it is wrong from the beginning, but it's also like not a valid deduction. Like he couldn't like put that into lean and get it to accept it or something, Like
yeah, yeah.
he didn't define his terms properly, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, so
And
I mean, in my view, it's like idealism is just some kind of convenient way. Yeah, introducing bad concepts in general is just a convenient way to evade reality further down the road. More like it's an excuse. So that's how it
it
feels.
can be, sometimes it's an honest error.
Yeah, I don't know about this guy. But anyway, do you have any concluding
But,
remarks? Because basically we're kind of down, right? Like it's even it's even
it's kind of
surprised.
funny because we only listened to him for a few minutes,
No, but
but
that's
like,
enough. I
yeah,
mean, I
this is
think
the essential point. This is
mm,
his error, and all the rest of the stuff he's gonna say is gonna be like crap, and this is why. So
well, not exactly. I mean, he tries to be logical, and again, he only makes it's not even maybe in this interview, but yeah, but he makes mistakes somewhere down the line in this deductive in this deductive reasoning
but
way. So
you're saying, yeah, like it's like he tries to be logical, but it's not perfectly logical. Like there's probably some errors in his deduction later
yes,
on.
right.
Okay, sure.
And yeah, but they happen because he just decided to introduce this dysfunctional concept, which mixes existence with consciousness together. Right. Okay, but so if that's all we could say here, I guess we could end. If you
Sure.
don't object, then yeah, see you next time.